Hi, my name is Karolina Sieler, and I am a former law lecturer here in London, as well as the founder of a platform called firstclasslb.com, which helps law students to get a first in both their exams and their essays. Today I want to talk to you about how to write a first-class case note summary. There are three main reasons why you would want to write a case note. The first one is when you're writing your coursework and you know, for example, that you have 10 or 15 cases that you need to include in your coursework. For that reason, to make your work easier, you would, before writing the essay, before beginning the writing process, go ahead and write up a summary, a case note summary for each of them. And this summary might be a little bit more lengthy than in other cases, so it might be, let's say, something like 3, 4, or even 500 words, or let's say half a page in a Word document. Another reason why you would want to write up a case note summary is when you are revising for your exams, and in those cases, case note summaries are a lot more targeted, so they are much shorter. You're either including a point of law in the case, or you're including the facts of the case, or sometimes perhaps even an important judgment in the case. The last reason why you would want to write a case note summary is for when you are asked to do it as part of an assignment. Now, this type of an assignment might be anywhere between 500 up to even 2,500 words long, so it can turn into a proper big essay effectively about a specific case. But regardless of whichever one you're looking at, whichever of those cases you're looking to write up as a case note summary, the tips that I'm going to share with you will help you with each of them. So let's start with the first thing. How do you approach writing a case note summary? Well, first of all, you find out what cases you need to include in your case note summaries. And when it comes to exams, when you're trying to, let's say, you're looking at a specific topic and you're trying to figure out, okay, so which cases do I need to prepare case notes for? Typically, they are the cases which are mentioned by the lecturer in the lecture slides, and not anything else that was mentioned, let's say, in a textbook or a revision guidebook. So if your lecturer has mentioned, let's say, 20 cases in a specific lecture slides for a particular topic, then you can, let's say, take around between 6, 8, or 10 cases, something like this, and prepare case note summaries for them. If you're looking for cases for a coursework, then you would start with those cases mentioned in the lecture slides, and then you would expand by looking at what other cases are mentioned, especially in your textbook. You hardly ever actually need to go ahead and look for cases on platforms like Westlaw and LexisNexis, unless it's an area of law which is very, very new, and there were not many cases that were discussed in your textbook. So perhaps you want to then go ahead and look at Westlaw and LexisNexis to see if you can find some new cases that you can mention in your coursework. The first thing you would do once you find your cases is you would grab a revision guide or a basics textbook. So what I mean by this is those small textbooks that really just contain the basic, most important explanations of cases, definitions, and statute sections. And you would try to find, by looking at the content of the table of cases, to see whether this specific case is mentioned in that guide, and also check whether it is something that, so check which page this case is on and see what's mentioned in that specific guide about the case. Now, in terms of what those types of guides might mention about the case, they will mention either the facts of the case and the decision in the case, or they will mention the point of law. Now, the point of law in a case is just the rule that was established in a particular case. It's usually one sentence, and it usually is something that you can take from this specific case and apply to a variety of other cases, even if the circumstances of those cases are very, very different. Now, the second thing, so the facts and the decision of the case, are usually used, or you can usually use only in a very similar context. So let's say if you're looking at the problem scenario during an exam and it mentions specific circumstances, if you want to describe the facts and decision in a particular case, then they have to be more or less similar. And if they are not, at least you have to mention how the circumstances in the scenario can be different or are different from the case, so that you can assess the extent to which the court would be likely to make a similar decision in case of your problem scenario. So you know what are the two key things that you should use, include in your case notes. So they are the point of law and the facts and decision in the case. Now, it often happens that a revision guide doesn't include both of those. So what you would do then is you would try to find them in a textbook. If you can, you would look for what's included in the textbook about the specific case. If, let's say, you have a point of law but you're missing the facts, go through 1, 2, or 3 different textbooks and try to see if you can find those facts and decision in the textbook. If this is not available, then you should, that's the stage at which you will have to go to Westlaw or LexisNexis, try to find the report of the case, and then try to briefly read it just to figure out what were the facts of the case and what was the decision in the case. Once you have both the facts of the case and the decision as well as the point of law, all you have to do is literally just formulate it into a case note. And usually a case note will include the full name of the case and the citation of the case, so the number that usually follows the names of both parties in the case. And then you could say something like point of law and then mention the one sentence, the one rule established in the case. You could then say facts, and then you could explain briefly what were the facts in the case. And then the final one is the decision, and again in one sentence, sometimes 2 short sentences, you can mention those. Of course, if you're asked to write an entire assignment about a particular case, or if you're asked to, if you know that you have to, this is one of the key cases for your essay that you're writing, and you know you will have to talk a lot about it, then another thing you can do is you can try to figure out the most important judgments from the case note, from the case. And the way that you would do that is, again, you could get one of those textbooks which says materials and cases, or materials or key cases on them. They are usually quite thick textbooks. And you would, again, try to go through the table of cases and find out whether the case is in the textbook. And then once you are able to find the case, usually those extracts from the judgments are quite lengthy. But if you're writing an essay, you wouldn't want to include a quote with the judgment that is longer than about 2 short sentences. So take that into account and just figure out which parts of that specific extract are the most important parts that you can use in your case note. One thing that I want to mention to you is I have included a much more expanded version of how to deal with cases and how to approach cases, how to create case note summaries in my course called First Class Law Exam Revision Course. So that's one thing you can definitely check out. And I am also the author of several revision notes, guidebooks on different subjects. So these are the guidebooks that include a lot of important information that you can just sort of grab and start revising for the exam without doing a lot of extra work in terms of creating your own notes. So I'll provide a link to both of those down below. So make sure you check both of them out if you want more support with both your essays and your exams.